In 2025, scientists discovered something that rewrites everything we knew about dinosaurs. It's a revelation so big it could make headlines around the world. So get ready for dinosaur breakthrough. Hello and welcome to Paleologic. I'm your host. You already know this is not a normal episode because if it was, we would be talking about some boring old bones from the genus Boreopelta Mark Mitchell. But today we are going to talk about one of the best years for dinosaur discoveries ever, 2025. And by the way, I know this is late. I know it's been over a year since these discoveries were made. But just because they happened back in 2025 does not mean that they aren't still relevant today. Because these discoveries are only changing the way we understand dinosaurs more and more every day. Okay? Well, let's start with a bang, shall we? What was the most shocking new discovery of 2025? Was it the revelation that Tyrannosaurus rex may have had feathers? Was it the first identification of cannibalism in our favorite horned dinosaur? Or maybe it was the astonishingly complete skeleton of a never-before-seen species of Ankylosaurus. They were all amazing, but to me there was something special about a new relative of Ankylosaurus that was discovered by my friends at the Carnegie Museum of Natural History in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Not only is this a new species of armored dinosaur, but it also represents a new genus. That means that these guys are going to need to rename the entire group that they belong to. This is a major event. The fossil was found by paleontologist Adam Brinker and his team out in the field. And this is where I want to spend a little bit of time, because it's easy to forget that when you're watching TV and seeing a perfectly clean bone come out of the ground, that it takes weeks and sometimes months of hard, hot, dirty work to uncover those fossils. So let's take a time-lapse back to the summer of 2023 when this team was out in the scorching sun of the Badlands of South Dakota. After spotting a telltale glimpse of a rib, they spent days carefully cleaning away the rock and sediment until finally, bam, a perfect fossil right in front of their eyes. Okay, that actually did happen in 2023, but the fossil itself is from the Cretaceous period, meaning that this fossil is hundreds of millions of years old. In order to determine how old, scientists studied the rocks above and below the fossil and compared them to other rocks with similar composition across the world to help establish an age range. This fossil is between 76 and 74 million years old, which places it somewhere near the middle of the Cretaceous period. During a time when the Rocky Mountains were beginning to rise, much like they did after the extinction of the dinosaurs, during this time, western North America was dominated by the Western Interior Seaway, a large, salty sea that stretched from the Arctic Ocean all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. The site where this fossil was found was once a beach along that very seaway. And this animal died here. But who was this strange creature that washed up on this ancient beach? Well, it was a medium-sized reptile covered in armor. Kind of like a turtle or an armadillo. But instead of being related to either of those animals, they are actually more closely related to birds. Bird, turtles, and armadillos, three totally unrelated groups of animals, all independently evolved armor. Now we've talked about the group that this animal belongs to before. In fact, we've even talked about this very fossil. They are called the Boreopelta Mark Mitchelli. And they belonged to a group of dinosaurs called the Thyreophora. Now before you get too confused, let me explain. Thyreophora is a name that encompasses a huge group of plant-eating dinosaurs. At its most inclusive, this group includes all dinosaurs with armor, basically. Now, as you can imagine, that's a pretty big group. Thyreophorines were small and nimble or giant and stompy. Some were fast and bipedal and others were slow and quadrupedal. Some looked like Ankylosaurus and others looked like Stegosaurus. However, through studying the anatomy of Boreopelta Mark Mitchell, scientists were able to show that these two animals are actually more closely related than they are to other members of the Thyreophora. That means that this fossil doesn't just represent a new species, but it represents a new genus as well. That means that this is the first revision of the Thyreophora in over 50 years. That's a long time. The problem that scientists face when they discover fossils like these is that there are so many different types of Thyreophorans that figuring out where a new fossil fits into the family tree can be difficult. And that is why this discovery is so important. By showing that these two genera are more closely related than others, this study helps us to better understand how this whole group evolved. Scientists will likely revise the Thyreophora in the future, but for now, The Boropelta Mark Mitchell sits alone in the genus Boropelta Mark Mitchell, for now. This is just one of the incredible fossils found in 2025. And this one happens to be from my home country of Canada. Another great find came from the United States, just south of the Canadian border in North Dakota. A horned dinosaur, a member of the family Ceratopsidae, was found in such good condition that it's helping scientists to understand how these animals grew and developed. This dinosaur, which has yet to be named, is the oldest of its kind ever discovered. And by studying it, scientists hope to learn more about the evolutionary history of the Ceratopsidae. So, what else happened in 2025? Well, remember that relative of Ankylosaurus that I mentioned at the beginning of the video? Well, its scientific name is literally still pending. As of recording this episode in early 2026, there are just so many cool things to talk about here. Like the discovery of the first ceratopsian from India. You probably don't think of India as a place with lots of dinosaurs, but during the late Cretaceous, it was a very different place. Basically, most of the land masses of the world were combined into one gigantic supercontinent called Pangaea. And as Pangaea began to break apart, many animals migrated between the separating land masses. And in the case of this new ceratopsian, they migrated to India. This is an example of vicariance, where populations of animals split due to the splitting of a landmass. This is also how marsupials ended up in both South America and Australia. And speaking of Australia, there were major revelations about dinosaurs living south of the equator. Until recently, we thought that almost all dinosaurs lived north of the equator. That's because almost all of the dinosaur fossils were found north of the equator. But now, thanks to new discoveries in Australia, we know that dinosaurs thrived south of the equator as well. One of the coolest aspects of this is that these discoveries are helping scientists to understand how dinosaurs adapted to life in different climates. The answer, it turns out, is pretty well. And if you think that sounds cool, wait till I tell you about another amazing discovery from 2025. Remember at the beginning of the video when I talked about the possibility that T-Rex might have had feathers? Well, in 2025, scientists got closer to answering that question than they ever have before. Thanks to a fossil found in Canada, we now have the most complete skull of Albertosaurus ever discovered. And with it, we have a better understanding of how this ferocious carnivore looked and lived. This specimen is also helping scientists to better understand the evolutionary relationships between tyrannosaurs. And speaking of tyrannosaurs, another incredible discovery from 2025 was made by a team of scientists in China. They discovered the skull of a young Tyrannosaurus regina, which gives us a window into the growth and development of this iconic species. Studying fossils like this one is helping scientists to piece together how dinosaurs changed as they grew from hatchlings to adults. And I'll tell you, it's really interesting to see how some dinosaurs changed dramatically as they grew, while others changed very little at all. Finally, I want to mention one last discovery from 2025. It's a discovery that shocked the scientific community and captured the attention of people all around the world. I'm talking about the discovery of the first ever fossilized dinosaur poop. This incredible fossil is giving scientists a window into the digestive system of a herbivorous dinosaur. And who knows what other secrets it might hold. Okay, that's it for this episode of Paleologic. If you enjoyed learning about these amazing discoveries, then please subscribe for more paleo goodness. Also, I'd like to thank our supporters for their generous support. If you'd like to support us, then check out our support page. We've got some neat perks, including bloopers and behind-the-scenes content. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time on Paleologic. What other secrets might still be buried beneath our feet?